Hello, my dog lovers. I am here because someone has 9 puppies. Hi, Robin.
Hey, how are you?
How are your creatures? How are your little pups?
They are doing very good. They're growing like weeds. They're happy. They're healthy. They're doing great.
So instead of me telling people what to do with puppies, I actually would like to know what you've done with your puppies so far. How old are they?
They are going to be 7 weeks on Monday.
7 weeks on Monday.
Yeah.
And by the way, everyone, we've had like probably about 3 or 4 months of Robin being like super mom. And, before her dog got pregnant, we experienced the kind of the pre-pregnancy anxiety and then the pregnancy anxiety and the puppy anxiety. How do you feel? How do you feel about this whole process? And, what is your experience?
So it is, yeah, that anxiety, you saw it through and through, right? So it's always that, okay, we're being careful, we're doing all the health testing that we possibly can. We are making sure that we are doing a good fit. And then you hope that the breeding works. And then you hope that everything and everyone arrives safely into this world. And then you make sure that the first 3 weeks, nothing's happening to them because that is a critical period of their development. And then you just start being able to have more fun. And you are introducing things like puppy culture, and you have early neurological stimulation and different scents that you're introducing and textures.
Puppy culture?
Yeah, puppy culture. Highly recommend.
I thought there was pop culture, but I never thought there was puppy culture. That makes me really curious. Like, what is puppy culture? Actually, before you do, we're going to leave people in suspense about the puppy culture a little bit. Why don't we just start with the preparation for pregnancy? Because,
Okay.
you have some ideas. Maybe you've done something that I'll say right on, and maybe you forgot something, so I can actually fill it in. But I'm quite certain that you probably didn't forget about pretty much anything. I thought I was an amazing dog lover. Like, you're just like off the scale.
I'm the crazy zone.
Crazy zone.
It starts way back when, mama is young and 6 weeks and that pairing, right? And so you have this puppy that you hope will one day develop into a perfect example of the breed, or very close to, in health testing, but also temperament, right? Both of those go hand in hand. So when your dog is about 2 years old, and everything is looking great, then you can start health testing. And so for my breed, I do hips, I do elbows, I do an echo with a cardiologist. I make sure that their thyroid is good. We also do DM testing and genetic testing to make sure everything is happy and as it should be. And eyes as well. And then we start into the process of looking for a stud that's going to complement, and that he has all those health requirements and testing done as well to make sure all the boxes are ticked.
Is there like a doggy dating app or something?
It's a lot of research.
You just gotta swipe right or swipe left.
I mean, a little bit, right? Like, you're kind of like,
The stud catalog.
Truly, we actually do have a stud catalog.
Rhodesian Ridgeback.
We do.
You guys, this is worse than I thought it would be. Like, imagine, this is like disgrace. Like, stud catalog. You're almost acting like you were choosing. Yeah, it's like, this is how women act and guys act, right? On these dating apps. Like, this is what happens.
Or like the equivalent if you are looking for a male for yourself, right? And you're looking at the different qualities and if they had any health conditions or, right? Like, it's a very complex process.
So it's like, there's some Disney movies on dogs as well, I'm sure. And that Lady and what was the Disney movie? The
Lady and the Tramp?
I don't know. Like, is that's a dog movie, right? Like, I haven't.
The spaghetti one?
You know what? I have not seen it. I must confess.
What?
But
oh my gosh.
No, I haven't, because I grew up in communism, right? So how can I watch Disney? But this whole choosing of the perfect partner and so on, I kind of understand it with breeding, because what you don't want to do is to breed dogs that are unhealthy, and I totally get it. But I blame Disney for the Prince Charming and Princess, because did you know that actually marriages, and this is a complete derailment, but did you know that 56% marriages actually fail these days,
Yeah.
and 20%
Yep.
additional of marriages are unhappy. So there's like roughly about
Huge.
20% people who are actually happy in their marriages. There is an amazing podcast by Stephen Bartlett, if anyone wants to watch it, and it's on divorces and love. And it's beautiful, but it's also brutal on some level because it actually touches this. And in this podcast, they're saying, well, the reason why Titanic ended up with DiCaprio drowning was that if the story went on, it would be very different ending. So going back to dogs, so I don't want to derail too much from your puppies, but I hope that you've forgiven me or forgive me for derailing slightly because this is all about relationship. Right? So let's go back to the studs.
Yeah, for example, it's also important for me to make sure that your stud is a little bit older. Like I say, anything over 6 is perfect because we don't have that luxury with our females, right? We want to make sure that a stud is happy and healthy and doesn't have any lumps or bumps or allergies or anything that has popped up over the years. We have mast cell that's very common in our breed. And so I want to make sure that we are not bringing in literally anything that we can know of and prevent.
Or you're saying older stud. Like, is your female a gold digger? Maybe she is.
I mean,
Ay, ay, ay. We're getting into really rough territory. Like people
yeah.
probably did not expect this podcast to be going this direction, but we kind of agreed, right? That we were just going to chat and see whether it goes well or
Yep.
not. I want to actually maybe make a little comment on purebred breeding because some people say, oh, it should not be done. And there's so many homeless dogs, but there's also the heritage of the breeds and the culture. And there have been centuries of really hard labor um, put into the breeds. And I really love that. I think that obviously mutts and crossbreed dogs are amazing and fantastic and awesome, but also the heritage of the breeds. If there are any people who are kind of questioning that part of the canine universe, I'd say it's cultural and it's important. And thank you for doing it right, as opposed to having a puppy mill. You're not running a puppy mill, right?
No, gosh, no. And it's a very good point to make too, right? Because it is important that you're doing it well and properly. Because when it is done well within a breed, for example, I'm in Canada, right? And we as a community also protect the breed, and you're not going to find a ridgeback in a shelter here. We make sure that everyone is taken care of, homes are appropriate, dogs are altered appropriately at an appropriate age, and all of these measures are taken very seriously and very carefully.
So we will have to get Dr. Kutzler to the Rhodesian Ridgeback Society and just explain that hormone sparing sterilization is the only way to go unless they want to keep their dogs intact.
Yeah.
When it comes to immunity and preparation for the pregnancy, I would like to emphasize that it's actually good to have an idea whether your female dog, has antibodies against distemper, parvo, and leptospirosis, to make sure that the colostrum, the first milk, will actually be full of antibodies, because that's how puppies get protected. Also checking for parasites, because parasites can get transferred through the uterus and through the milk.
Absolutely.
And it's super important. And most puppies actually do end up with certain infestation, whether it's from the environment or from the mother. But if your mother is parasite free, that is super good. And I'm sure that you've done those tests, right?
Absolutely. You bet.
How did it go? Like, so are they test tube babies or are they real love babies?
Yes, they were done by frozen AI. So it's called TCI, the process, because the sire is in Oklahoma and he is a little bit further away than where I can drive.
I'm really sad. No.
And honestly, it's actually usually safer for your dog. I won't get into details, but the way that a live breeding can happen, things can tear, things can get a little bit dangerous for either party. So
Well, everyone who's listening, please make sure that you don't do dangerous things in life. Please. I'm just being silly here. But, Robin and I, by the way, guys, Robin and I have this amazing friendship. And obviously, Robin is on the team and she's doing an amazing job. But we often have these little disagreements, right, Robin? And I still promote natural love in dogs. Maybe it's a little unsafe, but still, I think that why not? Maybe I'm European, right? So it's just a little more liberal on that level.
I will say, if you have the option to, I'm not against it. But I think you really have to make sure you have the right dog too. Right. So if there's nobody local that fits my standard and my girl, I would much rather import than taking a subpar male. But yeah, so after we do, the TCI or the breeding, and we make sure everything is going well, then we wait anxiously for about 30 days, and then we do the ultrasound, and then we find out if we're pregnant or not.
And you guys talk about anxiously. Like, I've seen Robin going through the motion of waiting whether the pregnancy happened or not. And oh my goodness, like, I thought, please, 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 just make it happen, because if it's not going to happen, we'll have a problem on our shoulders.
I think you actually said you are going to have you're going to have like a false pregnancy, or you said that I was going to be just like so devastated.
Yeah. I think that we just made it happen. We prayed and prayed to the universe to actually make it happen.
Yeah.
And so when it was confirmed that Zaya was pregnant, how did it feel?
It's just like a huge relief. So I will say, because I'm so attentive to my dogs and how they look, even I think it was as early as day 10 after the breeding, I was like, I'm pretty sure she's pregnant. And, I'm taking pictures and I'm analyzing, and I'm like, look at that little puffiness right there. I'm pretty sure she's pregnant. So it was just that as we got closer to the 30 days, I was pretty confident, but it was just like a huge relief when you get that confirmation and you see the little embryos, and then you get exciting in that overwhelming, feeling of I get to bring in these incredible babies that are going to change the lives of so many people. And excuse me if I'm going to get emotional, but for me, that's huge. Because as you know, right, with Sky and Pax, and just, they do so much good to our heart.
They're the medicine that we need, like, every single day. I see the old ladies walking with their little old wobbly dogs, and or
Totally.
Today I actually saw a guy, big guy with two chihuahuas on the leash, right? And it just kind of shows you the vulnerability of ourselves and how important it is to actually need dogs, have dogs. And I think that every crabby person should actually get a dog from the government, and maybe even sponsor the food bills, because I think that the world would be so much better if all people had dogs. Just recently, and we're going to derail a few times, you guys, so if you don't want to listen to this, you can just press stop and leave. But if you like to continue listening, just do. So I'm in Prague right now, and Pax is from Prague, so he's in his home city. He's a local. And I'm from a town about 100 kilometers away from here, 60 miles. And we were standing at the tram stop, waiting for the tram. And they go all the time, and dogs are allowed on the trams. And the other beautiful part is that they are supposed to wear muzzles, but almost no dogs wear muzzles, because why would you put a muzzle on a nice dog? Maybe if the dog is aggressive. So anyway, we're standing at the tram stop, and there's a tourist family, and from a country where dogs are probably not accepted very much. The husband came to me and said, "Excuse me, my wife is afraid of dogs. Can you move?" And I'm just kind of realizing that this guy is asking me to move while I am standing, and he could move as well, right? So I actually got a little pissy and said, why don't you move? Because in this culture, in this country, dogs are part of our culture. And if you're afraid, you can move. And I understand and respect your wife's fear. But you wouldn't like if I came to your country and tell you how to live life. And dogs to us in the Czech Republics are like kids.
They're the babies.
I just wanted to let you know what the culture is here. So it was an interesting conversation because I was a little upset about it because this is the dog paradise, and if we have more and more people coming and telling us what to do, which kind of happened in different places around the world, I so fear of losing this dog culture, and so fear of losing this tradition and this freedom and this liberal approach to dogs, because dogs can come to cafes and restaurants, and you don't get the water first, the dog gets the water bowl first, almost in any restaurant or any cafe that we walk to.
That's amazing.
So it's just like, I love being here, absolutely, and that's why we have to protect it. Anyway, going back to puppies, can we? So how was the birth?
It was good. She gave me a little bit of a run for my money with the anxiousness. Usually your temperature will drop, and then you should be expecting puppies at about, 24, max 48 hours. And she was right through and through. Like, her temperature dropped. And then she didn't want to eat breakfast. And then we had puppies that afternoon. The first one took a little bit longer, but then the puppies just came out. She's a great mom. She had all her puppies within, I think it was less than 12 hours. And she's strong. She's such a great mom. She's, taking care of them right away as soon as they're born. Everyone is a happy, healthy weight. Suckling. It was a great smooth delivery.
So that's the point where it's really important for puppies to get the colostrum. It doesn't even look like milk. It's sticky substance full of immunoglobulins.
It's like buttery.
And this is how puppies get their immunity. And for the next 12 plus weeks, they're fully protected against the diseases if the mother carries the most important diseases, if the mother carries the antibodies. So people often worry about puppies getting parvo and distemper when they get these antibodies, but they are protected. I'm not necessarily saying that you should take your little pups to the park or somewhere seeing other dogs, but they don't need to be really sheltered as much as they often are. What happens often, puppies are vaccinated at 8 weeks while they still have the maternal antibodies. And when you introduce vaccine in the body where the antibodies already exist, the vaccine, believe it or not, neutralizes the antibodies. It basically latches onto the antibodies. So you make the puppies less protected, and the immune system is immature and it cannot produce the immunity on its own. So the acquired immunity is basically neutralized by these early vaccines, and the body cannot produce antibodies. So we are actually effectively leaving puppies unprotected. So what I recommend instead is to take antibody test at the age of 12 weeks, the first time, and then decide whether you want to vaccinate or not based on the antibody results. If the antibodies are still there, remeasure the antibody test for distemper and parvo and maybe even leptospirosis at 16 weeks. And again, if it's positive, you can go on until you see no antibodies. But you know what happened to my dog Pax? He's never had distemper parvo vaccine, and he has full antibodies. Nature actually intends it really efficiently and well. Maternal protection exists, and then puppies start socializing with other dogs and they build their own immunity. So they kind of overlap. But if we do the vaccination protocols that we do, we, number one, expose dogs to vaccines way too early. They cannot respond. And then we also introduce mercury and the formaldehyde and other substances in the body when we actually can give only one vaccine, and possibly that vaccine will last for a lifetime. So the idea that we need boosters and all that is actually not correct in most dogs. And I do have a protocol on my website that describes it. So if you go to my website, petertobias.com, and look at vaccination puppies or vaccination or puppy care, it'll come up and you'll be able to look at the details. But it's so important not to over-vaccinate our dogs. And the idea that puppies should not be socialized until they are 16 weeks or 4 months old is just so unhealthy.
It's detrimental, truthfully.
Because similar to kids, they need socializing, all right, and they need to be exposed to other dogs and other puppies and other people. And if we keep them locked up in a house, it's like if we didn't take our 6-year-olds to play with other kids at all until 6 or 8 years of age, right? So it's super important. Anyway, Robin, how are you dealing with this? And what have you been doing with your pups? And are there any questions or anxieties? Or I'm curious to see what you've done. And I hope I didn't put you on the spot with this commentary.
No, that's okay. So as for all my puppies, when they're about 3 weeks old, I let mom know when she's ready to start weaning. And then I start transitioning. I actually introduce a goat milk that's raw and fermented. And then I end up gradually introducing over the next, I would say about 4 days to a week, some raw food. So I usually start out with a turkey, and then I add in some pumpkin, and then I slowly just have them onto a raw food. I also add in omegas about a week after that. So then they're on a variety of proteins. They are on their omegas. They have some probiotics in there, and they're just eating what my adult dogs are eating and thrive on, and they do so well.
Omegas are super important for brain development.
Yeah.
They are not
Yep.
only important for growth of cells and healthy tissue development and cell repair, they are super important for brain development. So if you want to have a smart puppy, give them good doses of omegas. You can't really overdose omegas, but it can be hard on your budget if you really give a lot. So just follow the labels and maybe even double it in the early phases. Double it for at least 6 months, I would say, and then you can start giving the regular label doses. But my general impression is that as time progresses, that we'll be actually increasing the label doses on our omegas and also on the human omegas, because I myself take about 3 to 4 grams a day, which is actually up to 8 capsules of 500 milligram capsules, 8 of them a day. And one of the reasons is that the more I listen to Dr. Peter Attia and some other health gurus, they're saying omegas, they're so important.
Yeah.
And they protect your blood-brain barrier, which is super important for preventing dementia and inflammation of the brain. And I listened to podcasts yesterday. I'm terrible with my podcasts. I listen all the time. Not terrible, but I'm addicted. And so there was this expert who talked about brain, and she said your brain has to be nice and fluffy and spongy. So I remember now that my brain has to be fluffy. And omegas will make your brain fluffy. Make your dog's brain fluffy. And puppies too.
Sorry, I'm just going to quickly touch on omegas too. With even my dogs generally get omegas daily, actually, if not twice a day. But I double it actually for when she comes into heat, and then so her entire pregnancy, she's also getting significantly more than she normally would. So that also passes on to her puppies as they are quite young, which is important.
Let's take a little break,
Yeah.
and we'll be back, and we'll talk nutrition, and we'll talk exercise, and we'll talk all the other stuff around puppies. And I hope you're enjoying it as much as we do. Maybe we just derailed a few times, and that's usually me, because you can see that Robin stays right on topic, but I like to kind of mind surf a little bit, and just things connect in my head. And I just love life and how everything is interconnected. So anyway, we'll be back.